Welcome back to Life on Purpose. Today we're diving into the one truth that changed everything for us: radical self-love. This is the story of how we found it, how it saved us, and how it became the foundation of everything we do. But even more than that, it's about how you can find it too. Before Suture was born, we were like so many young families, juggling everything, the beautiful chaos of raising little ones, paying bills, and really just trying to figure out what it meant to live a good life. Matt was deep into a career he loved. I was living my personal dream come true, home with our babies. The two little souls who taught me more about life than anything else ever could. And on the outside, it looked like we had everything we'd ever wanted. Healthy kids, a growing income, a home we were proud of. But beneath the surface, something was missing. And it felt awkward to say that out loud. It felt like we were being ungrateful if we admitted that it felt like there was something missing. We were grateful, and we still are, and we always will be. But we were also exhausted. We were burned out. Our burnout was disguised as ambition. We were passing off loneliness as just how it is, totally normal to feel this way. I had to spend entire days alone with the babies, no adult conversation, no time even to just be. All the memes are real, like there's no alone time, not even for a moment. I remember how lonely it felt too. You're not alone, you're with your beautiful babies, but you were lonely. But you weren't allowed to say that because you're ungrateful. It's such an interesting place to be. It's a challenging place to be. Matt would leave the house at 6 a.m. and come home after 7 p.m. So, we'd barely have an hour together before it was time to start all over again. We were living for the weekends. But the truth was that even Sunday nights, though, filled me with dread. So we weren't even living for the weekend. We were living for Friday night and Saturday. Because Sunday came and I started to get depressed because I knew Monday was coming and Matt would be gone again. And you know what's funny? We didn't even realize how heavy it all felt because we were so busy doing the right thing, doing what we were supposed to do. And it's easy to get trapped in that story, the one that says you're supposed to just keep going, keep providing, keep showing up no matter what it costs on the inside. And honestly, no matter what it feels like on the inside. Because that doesn't matter, because on the outside, you're checking all the boxes. So just, you should be more grateful. And it's like, not about that, And we didn't have like a big meltdown either that woke us up. It was so many of those little things. It was like small cracks in the foundation, the tiny resentments that build up like dust, and not resentment towards each other, resentment towards the story, the belief that it didn't matter what you were feeling on the inside as long as you were doing these things. And hey, you had these things, so you should just be happy. And if you're not happy, there's something wrong with you. And no matter how many times you say like, I am happy and I do appreciate it and I'm so grateful, I really am, but I'm also feeling like there's something missing. There was that constant feeling of missing each other. The moments when we felt like life was just happening to us instead of being something that we chose on purpose or something that we were co-creating together. We'd always been best friends too. So we were the kind of couple that really likes to spend all of their time together. And you know what? We still are. I remember the whole time we had the studios, everyone asking all the time. I got asked, how do you do it? How can you guys and Matt got asked too, how can you guys just spend all your time? You work together, you live together, you're raising the kids together. How do you do that? And that's just who we are. It's so important to us. But the life we were living was pulling us in opposite directions. And that hurt more than we wanted to admit. One Sunday, I actually remember thinking, I'm so tired of living for 2 days a week. It wasn't about not being grateful either, because I was, and I am, and I always will be. It was about feeling like something was missing. There had to be more meaning, more presence, more love in the way we lived, not just what we had. That's when we discovered what real self-love actually looks like. Radical self-love. It's not a luxury. It's not self-care, it's not like a spa day or a green smoothie. Love those things. They are so important, but that's not what radical self-love is. It's a commitment to meeting your deepest needs, even when it's hard. And how do you even discover your deepest needs anyways? You have to develop the skill of discernment between wants and needs. It's about asking moment by moment, what do I need right now? Not what do I want? What do I need? And am I willing to honor that need, even if it's inconvenient? Even if it looks crazy to everyone else. And honestly, a lot of times they do, and you just have to not care. The world doesn't teach you that. It teaches you to chase wants. You scroll when you're tired, you shop when you're lonely, pour a drink when you're stressed. Stay small because it's safe. But your soul knows better. For us, it started with small but radical choices. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but like turning off screens at night and sitting in the quiet until the quiet didn't feel so awkward. I remember this is way before social media and smartphones, so I guess really the only screen was the TV. But it meant like saying no to social events that just didn't feel right, even if we didn't know how to explain it. Or taking naps in the middle of the day, even when our to-do list was screaming at us and you almost felt bad, like you were being bad by taking a break and meeting that need. Communicating boundaries out loud. This one, and not necessarily between each other, but between everything. Boundaries with the world, with what we were willing to accept from the world at large and the people who live in it. Choosing each other again and again, because being together was not optional for us. And that was really at the heart of it all. And when we started doing those things, here's what we learned. Radical self-love isn't a vibe. It's a vow. It's a sacred promise to yourself. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about presence. And here's what it's built on. This is what it's built on. It's built on self-trust, number one. You have to be able to keep your word to yourself. You have to trust yourself to do that, even when no one's watching. You have to rely on yourself. Self-reliance, knowing that no one else can meet your deepest needs for you. Only you can do that. And you can rely on yourself to get it done. And compassion. Meeting yourself with grace, forgiving yourself all the time for everything. Not guilt, not shame when you need something different. It's okay to recognize, I just need something different. That didn't work for me. That was the wrong choice, right? Grace, not guilt, self-compassion. Those are the pillars of radical self-love. For me, radical self-love meant learning to stand up for myself. That was my number one. To trust my voice, even when it was shaking. To be my own best advocate, even when it felt like the hardest thing in the world to do. I know you hear people say that all the time, like speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. But I have to tell you, for me, standing up for myself, which was my truth, my voice literally shook. Like, literally. And I remember it was even about something that was totally non-consequential, did not matter, was not a big deal. And just saying the truth of how I felt, honestly, my voice actually shook. I was a lifelong people pleaser. That felt like conflict to me. And conflict was like my personal nightmare. I had to learn that real love for myself and love for my family meant not abandoning myself, not abandoning what I needed, even if it meant disappointing someone else. And that was hard. That was a hard lesson to learn. I used to hide behind Matt all the time. When it came to that, Matt could advocate for me, and and he was strong and he could hold those boundaries, and I could just hide behind him, and I did, and I still do at times. But I also learned how to speak my truth from Matt because he was so good at it. He didn't mind. It wasn't, conflict wasn't like a bad thing. It was just a part of life. And that's what I learned from Matt. And for him, it looked, radical self-love looked a little bit different. And this is where it was interesting for him because it meant his choice too, but it meant stepping away from a career that he'd poured so much into, his years and education and time and effort and work. And, it meant stepping away from that because that career was taking him away from what mattered most to him, which was our family, our time, our togetherness. Fortunately, it was the same thing that mattered most to me. But for him, it wasn't an easy choice. It was the right choice, but it wasn't an easy choice. And here's where the magic of radical self-love lives. It's in the hard choices. The ones that pull you back to what matters most. That's radical self-love. I think that's why it's easy to avoid radical self-love and really turn to radical self-care instead. Because walking away from something that was equally important in so many ways, like meaning providing for your family, that's something you need to do. That's definitely a need. But the soul need was our family, our time, our togetherness. And radical self-love teaches the discernment between the two. It's in the hard choices. That's where it's at. And every time you choose your needs over your wants, over the shoulds, you come back home to yourself, to your higher self, to your soul. You're meeting your dharma. That's your life's work. And here's where our story took a sharp turn, a turn that changed our lives forever. As we began practicing radical self-love, we noticed something incredible. The more we listened to our needs, our real needs, not what we thought we should need or should want, the more we started listening to our real needs, the more clarity we found. And clarity is energizing. The biggest need we kept coming back to was wellness. Wellness had always been Matt and our shared language. It's what we had in common first. We dug that about each other. That was our thing. It still is. It's how we connected and healed and dreamed together. Literally from the moment we met, we lit up about wellness. For my 23rd birthday, Matt got me a book on nutrition. Okay, women's nutrition. So, it's always been our thing. But in the life we were living, Matt working long hours and me at home with the babies, both of us exhausted all the time, wellness seemed like was always the first thing to fall away. We'd skip workouts because there wasn't time, or we'd grab whatever food was fastest instead of nourishing our bodies and eating what fueled us. We'd stay up late, drained and unable to rest. And every time we let wellness go, we felt like we were letting ourselves go, but not like in a diet way, body way, in a soul way. We were betraying our soul every time we did that. That's what it felt like. And that's what radical self-love showed us. If wellness is our foundation, then our life has to be built around it, not the other way around. Meaning we don't live a life and then try and squeeze wellness in where it'll fit. Our whole life has to be built around wellness, and everything else will find a way. We realized that wellness couldn't be an afterthought. It had to be at the heart of everything, because when we moved, we felt alive. When we nourished our bodies, that's when we felt strong. When we practiced stillness, that's when we felt connected to each other, to the great something, to our higher selves. And when we did it all together, that's when we felt unstoppable. That's when we felt like who we really are. The more we honored those needs, the clearer our next step became. Clarity brings energy. We wanted to create a life and a business that let us keep wellness at the center. Like, what if we could just live wellness and not have to choose between honoring ourselves, meeting our needs, being together, and supporting our life? That would be creating a life that supported us as a family and gave us the freedom to be together. That was the big dream. That dream became so clear, we couldn't ignore it. Not that we wanted to, but we wouldn't have been able to ignore it even if we did want to. We wanted to build something that was bigger than just work. It was a sanctuary, a place where we could raise our kids and live in alignment with our values and grow together, all of us, side by side. So we took a leap. We started dreaming about a wellness studio. We carried around a dream journal. We still have it. We've got to frame it. We used to just write down all of our ideas around wellness and how we could share it with the community. A studio that wasn't just about exercise or diets, but about living well in every way. A place where movement, mindset, meditation, nourishment, music, all of it came together as a way of life. Not just a thing you did sometimes. A place that would let us do the thing that had always been the core of our relationship. Together, support each other, inspire each other, and build something that was ours. It wasn't about creating a job. It was about creating a life on purpose. That's how Sutra was born. Not in a boardroom or a business plan, but in our living room. Late night conversations, wild dreams scribbled in that journal, babies sleeping on our shoulders while we talked about what was possible. We didn't have investors or a trust fund, but what we did have was vision and each other. And that's all we needed. More than anything, we wanted to reclaim our time and togetherness. We didn't want to spend our lives just passing each other in the hallway. Hey, how was your day? Always exhausted, always too busy. And not knocking it either for anyone else. Just for us, that's not what we wanted. And that's okay. So we created a space where we could build and dream and grow together. Even if it was late nights and early mornings, and it was, and so many doubts along the way, so many around every corner. But the whole time we knew we weren't just building a business, we were building a life and a family legacy. Looking back, what we were really doing, though, was creating a place that made it easier for us to choose ourselves. And in doing so, it made it easier for people to choose themselves. A place that said, you matter, your health matters, your joy matters. Because that's the truth we needed most in our lives. And that's the truth we wanted to share. And we did it all with babies by our side, rocking them to sleep in the corner while we worked late into the night. And it didn't matter. Somehow we were less exhausted in that busy circumstance than we were living a life that wasn't our own. It was the most radical act of self-love we'd ever made. We chose wellness as our foundation and built a family business around it so we could live what we teach. We didn't just want to survive. We wanted to thrive together. We wanted to build a business that felt like an extension of our hearts, a place where our kids could grow up, seeing their parents living in alignment and not just working to pay the bills. And that's exactly what we created. And from that truth, the 6 M's were born. Move your body because movement is medicine in every way. Train your brain because your thoughts create your reality. Nourish your cells because health is your foundation. Quiet your mind because peace is your birthright. Raise your vibration because energy is everything. And connect to source because you're not alone in this. 6 ways back to yourself. 6 ways to love yourself through the hard things, not just the easy things. Because that's what radical self-love really is. The discernment between wants and needs. And the courage to choose your needs over and over until what was once hard becomes the guiding light that leads you back home to yourself. That's your Dharma. So, if you've been waiting for permission to choose yourself, here it is. Self-love isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's not always soft or pretty. Sometimes it's fierce. Sometimes it's messy. But it's always real. Creating a life on purpose, I always get choked up when I think about it. Creating a life on purpose starts by loving the person living it. Every time you act in alignment instead of avoidance, you become the version of you already living the life you want. So here's your invitation. I want you to ask yourself, what's one area where you've been compromising your needs for what's expected? Just think about that. Maybe jot that down. What's one area where you've been compromising your needs for what's expected? And what would radical self-love have you choose instead? What would radical self-love have you choose instead? Just let those questions just breathe, settle. Maybe they'll stir something inside you, because that's where the real transformation lives. We're Matt and Rebecca, and until next time, love yourself like it's your job, because it is.